Hello and welcome back to my GTNH playthrough. It is September 19th. We are back over here. This is my east tower, kind of looking at my goal wall that I had set up, feels like forever ago, but a few weeks ago. I just kind of looking at some of the stuff. So kind of looking at this, I'm actually kind of, I wouldn't say impressed, but happy about the amount of things on here I've actually accomplished, considering I haven't been spending as much time over here after moving. But got the upgrade the furnace. I think this one is a mistype. It should have been upgrade basically the mega EBFs, which we have done. The color bees, which have done. Reactor and IV passive EBFs, all done. Control area, done. IV swapping mufflers. We got the IV mufflers on craft, so that's all done. Ore processing, kinda sorta. These two can stay. But more importantly, and what I got done doing, platline. Done. So today, before we get into the platline stuff, the way I started the day off was kinda buttoning up a few things. I was gonna save them for the weekend, but a couple things were kind of annoying me. The biggest one was setting up this air filter. I do already have one set up underneath the mega multi-blocks already, but this guy I wanted to set up because I was short-sighted and threw my oxygen, this is the wrong floor, oxygen electrolyzers over here. So throwing this guy down here in the middle of the tower, I set it to only cover a 3x3 area, which basically, if you were to look at the way my towers are set up from the map down, they're only these 3x3. So this little guy, I don't have a roof, so you can still see it. Covers this whole area and takes care of all the pollution in here, and it doesn't. When I'm working up there, it doesn't seem like I'm working in a radioactive wasteland, because it was pretty bad. I did nearly goof though, because I forgot I don't have a roof on the top of here, so this was exposed, and it started raining, but luckily I noticed fast enough before I lost that controller. The next little thing I took care of, just so I didn't have to keep coming down and manually turning it on and off, was this electrolyzer specifically. I set up an interface with the carbon dust pattern, and put carbon dust in the level maintainer, pretty high amount, like 4,000, but I didn't want this one running constantly because it goes so fast, and I don't know, I can't remember where I'm getting my coal dust from, or if that was just from mining, but either way, I didn't want to mess around with running out and getting irritated while I'm in the middle of something. So this guy is now set on a level maintainer, which is great. Over the weekend, I do need to set up a logic circuit for these guys, because they're constantly running right now. Even though I don't really need it, I can't see it from my wireless. My wireless doesn't have fluids on it yet. But anyways, I think I have something like 140 million droplets of oxygen and hydrogen, so I don't need these constantly running. So I am going to use a level emitters to turn these guys off versus level maintainers, because I don't want to set up a recipe for it, especially since I'm just using the water reservoir hatch. But instead of setting up the circuit on top of each block individually, I think I'm going to just drop a logic circuit right here that is a level emitter for oxygen, level emitter for hydrogen, and ore in the middle, and then that'll go to a transmitter, and if either one are low, you basically toggle an RS latch, similar to how the nuclear reactors are set up, to turn these guys on and off, just depending on the current level. So that'll be nifty. That'll be a weekend thing, because that's just, like I said, some redstone logic, nothing too fancy. So then part of the reason I ended up knocking those out too, like I said, the pollution was annoying me, but I also couldn't decide where to throw the second half of the platinum metal line, because this floor right here ended up wrapping all the way around, and this area is taking care of the palladium and the rhodium and like it took up this entire section, and the actual platinum stuff. So like platinum comes up to here. This section all the way up to here is the rhodium, and this section all the way over here is the palladium. So it took up everything, and then all the recycling. But I also wanted it to still be on the same subnetwork, so ideally I actually wanted to make it this floor down here, but down here is where I have my diluted hydrogen sulfide recycling, my lubricant, or my, not lubricant, mining fluid, drilling fluid, that's the word, right here, and then my color bees are all set up right here. So I didn't want to move this or waste time moving it, even though ideally I think it would have been better in the long run. It was just, I don't know, it seemed unnecessary. So I did end up, if you follow this yellow line up, just going the floor above, although ironically, I guess would be the right word, is this all could have fit on the same floor as the stuff I was just pointing out, because finishing out the plat line actually only took up this much space, and I'll go into that in a second. So I could have fit it downstairs. I did, like I said, I just ran the sub network up to here. I put a couple terminals down just for convenience sake, especially this guy, because I did continue my framing process. The only thing I don't have in a frame right now is a osmiridium powder, but we were able to get the whole line set up. Basically from this blast furnace down to this LCR, I believe. Oh no, this LCR. I need to label these at some point, so like 2 months from now when I'm trying to figure out what's going on, I don't have to relearn the whole line again. But that blast furnace down here is the iridium. Only these two multi-blocks are needed for the osmium, and then this guy right here is set up to smelt them. Though you'll notice only one half is running because I need IV energy hatches to actually smelt the osmium, because I need to overclock it to LUV. But that's that'll be fixed here shortly. This is just already set up. The only thing I'm missing is a export, which I actually thought I had set up already, but that's fine. We'll come back to that later. Not important. From this guy down here is the ruthenium line, with the final little bit right here being I'm probably saying that wrong. I'm just gonna open the quest book. This guy. So it's kind of cool. There's not really too much of note, like nothing too fancy had to go into any of this. For the ruthenium line, I did have to make a new multi-block, or chose to make a new multi-block. I think for every single process, with the exception of fluid solidification, I went with the multi-block version. This guy in particular is a fluid heater. Technically it's called a thermic heating device, but it's the fluid heater multi-block. For fluid solidifying, that multi-block's just so massive and kind of unnecessary for the parts I needed that I did just go with single blocks. What's really cool, and I have to really praise the pack makers for this, like how well everything kind of integrates together, is you'll notice, say on the back of this LCR, so this is the iridium line, I've got this tank right here. This tank specifically is taking in acidic iridium solution, and then in front of this distillation tower, I have this super tank with acidic osmium solution. So those two things are, if we were to come back here onto the quest line, I believe it would be acidic osmium solution. So this guy we actually get from our bees, which we get osmium combs. I cannot honestly remember right offhand if I've made an osmium bee or not already. I may have, or I might just be running the iridium bee in the nether with a ender chest. I can't remember which one currently, but either way, this guy produces these two things. So like this acidic osmium solution is now, if you look from my setup here, the orange wire up here, this is the main network, is pulling that in. So this ends up pulling it from bees, whereas this blue network is the Platline subnet, so it's pulling it in from like the previous LCR. Basically, technically, the way I decided to go with this is every single one of these exports back into the network and then pulls in for its respective process. figured that would be easier for me to see in the long run where I'm getting backed up, or if I have, like if something in particular needs to be sped up once I actually need like thousands of this resource, which I assume at some point I will. It's also kind of cool about doing this process separate versus the day before. So hopping out here, which I love the way this looks, by the way. So this is the first run of the Platinum line, the Monzonite line, and then the second version of the Plat line, or the remaining metals. You'll notice down on these two, I have 2 runs of dense cable going. This was just kind of like a little optimization. This guy's just covered cable now, because if we were to hop down here, for example, to the first run of the Platinum line, this whole dense cable is all it is holding a couple P2P networks, basically one for each side of the building. So ultimately only need to be 4 channels. So that dense cable is unnecessary, so I dropped that down. And what I like is just there's a little optimizations like that. Another one that's unique to this guy is instead of running one gallium thing around the whole way, I do have multiple dynamos on this Lapitronic superconductor. So like each section is isolated and less likely to have power issues. That is something I'm going to upgrade and fix on these guys, especially. But I am going to save that till I craft the IV energy hatches instead of redoing it multiple times. Yeah, you see like this fork right here. This fork doesn't exist up here. And shouldn't have existed here. But this will be easy enough to fix. Like basically this guy will just be disconnected and I'll run this line over here to a dynamo hatch. Not too big a deal. But trying to think. So the other thing, after I did get these 2 lines finished, I did add throw these guys over here. So these are just cleaning up the B stuff. So the 2 nuggets, the iridium and osmium, come in here, form out into ingots and jet back into the network. It does kind of amuse me because in the case of like osmium, where I technically can't even smelt it, I nearly have 4 stacks already of osmium. So it just kind of silly that I can do that. One of the other things I did, so this last metal, I'm going to do the same for osmiridium, but I haven't set this up yet because I cannot smelt this guy currently, so I wasn't going to waste my time with it. But this guy where I'm currently waiting on, this takes 270 seconds to smelt at IV, or EV I should say. But this guy is a alloy of iridium and ruthenium, and I did not want it to just be constantly on passive with my using up all my iridium. So the way I went about fixing that, unlike everything else that I'm using export buses, I did throw some interfaces on both this machine and this machine, and ended up adding a couple crafting CPUs down here and a level maintainer specifically for this subnet. And then, through the recipes on each interface, put the level maintainers here. This guy is nice though, because I was really overthinking this. I was trying to think of how I would be able to do the level maintainer, because basically any hot ingot that comes out, even on the subnet, the way I have everything set up, this mega vac just pulls it automatically. So I was going to do like a mini subnet and all this stuff to like isolate this little process and have its own level maintainer. And I was like, wait a minute, you can just add an exception to the or dictionary card down here to not pull in that specific ingot or any other ingot that I want to just leave as a level maintain on the separate subnet. So that's what I ultimately did, and I was way overthinking how to fix that. But yeah, so this guy's pretty sweet. I'm really happy with the way all this turned out. I did keep up my frame thing. The only frame that's missing is my osmiridium, which I'll get here in a little while. The next steps, things I need to address, or basically future plans, things I want to address. So over the weekend, I would really like to rework this B area, basically over the weekend / Monday. This is like my next big project before pushing forward progress wise. This is basically archaic and needs to be updated. I would really like to wait till LUV, but honestly, I just keep running into problems, and I keep having to waste time coming over here to fix things, unclog things, or check on why certain resources aren't working. The reason I want to wait for LUV is because, again, the LUV components are needed for the climate upgrades for the industrial apiaries. So for me to start spamming these and getting things jubilant, I need more of that. And unfortunately, what I learned for, like, say, the demonic one, because I needed more, I wanted more lava to keep up with my tantalum, for example. But if you throw like a demonic in there, even though it's got its traits are plus and minus 5 humidity, plus and minus 5 temperature, if it's in this guy, it needs to be, that ignores that. It just needs to be in its whatever its base climate is. So, and I don't want to mess around with witchery to like change little bits of the climate around them. I know I can technically do that, but I don't want to. So those will be, I want to fix it, overhaul this, and then I would like to wait till LUV basically, so I don't have to reiterate on it, or immediately reiterate on it, but we will fix that sooner than later. The other things I would like to do, I do need to take care of some resources, or maybe spam more bees. I'm short on salt, short on nitrogen, and short on carbon. The carbon might be taken care of. I just need to keep an eye on my coal dust. But again, I believe I have a coal bee that I'm not running, so I'll double check that, and if that's the case, I'll just throw down the coal bee, and then that's taken care of. The other thing I'll need to want to do quite immediately is the EV energy hatch, which I am basically set up to do that. Kind of amusingly, is I kind of tunnel visioned out while making this machine. So one of the things I had to set up specifically for this iron electromagnet was IV coils. If we pull this guy up, this insane voltage coil. I already have this on AutoCraft, including these superconductor wires, because I was just like, oh, I need them for the polarizer, yada yada. Wasn't even thinking about it being like the main ingredient and the main thing keeping me from getting IV energy hatches. I do need to set up a LCR to get this high power IC, but that's just one LCR, and considering how I feel like I'm becoming a multi-block pro with the amount of multi-blocks I've spammed in the last 2 days, but that should be pretty fast and easy to set up, and I'll have IV energy hatches, and then I'll just go around doing some cleanup. Anywhere, there's not many, but in the places where I've overclocked, like for example this distillation tower for osmium needed to be IV, so this guy's overclocked. I'll swap these to IV hatches. Otherwise though, trying to think. Yeah, I think that's it for me today. This has been a really fun week for Minecraft. I'm really excited with the amount of progress I made. Like, basically these 3 floors sum up everything. I'm gonna get ready and head out for cards. Appreciate everybody for watching. Like I said, this has been a really fun week. I look forward to moving onwards and upwards. I'm really excited to have gotten to this point. Seems like, I don't know, Platinum Line is such a infamous thing and something I wasn't sure I would ever quite get to in the pack. So I don't know, it's exciting to see how smooth it went, and making me look forward to the future of the pack. So I appreciate everyone for watching. I hope everyone has a good weekend. I'm gonna head out, and I hope you have a good night. Goodbye.